some of the most important things that you do when you're debating is that you have to have cognizance of history, you should have rudiments of logic, and you should be aware of science.
Yes.
My friends here have demonstrated that they don't understand logic, they clearly don't understand history, and they don't respect science. So Honorable Wamatangi started by saying that he was going to deconstruct my logic and never mentioned anything illogical about what I said. In fact, he ran away from his threat that he was going to deal with my logic. I want to deal with them right now because they are demonstrating all the fallacies that honorable members, but particularly those who respect going to school, should adhere to. Number one, Honorable Wamatangi has committed a fallacy of ignoratio elenchi, arguing from a point of ignorance. He says, first of all, he attacks the decision of the Supreme Court,
yes,
takes a swipe. But he does not understand that the Supreme Court makes decisions like any other court based on evidence, finds facts based on that evidence, and applies law to those facts to reach a determination. And that determination has already been arrived at. He cannot relitigate that case. The Supreme Court on September 1st reversed its decision of 2013. Not just on the standard of proof,
yes,
but on every other jurisprudential principles that were misapplied in that decision. And that is what they are trying to do. And that would inform also their declaration at the end that the election of August the 8th, the presidential election, was not just invalid, it was null and void. What is the meaning of that in layman's language? What it means is that there was no election on August 8th, 2017. There was no election. So therefore, you are doing a repeat. You are repeating everything that ought to have been done constitutionally and legally on August 8th, starting with the nomination of presidential candidates.
Yes.
Therefore, Ekuru Aukot must be allowed to run because there was no election. The Supreme Court has said. You cannot relitigate that. And unfortunately for my friends, are more experienced in law than they do, than they are. Therefore, they cannot overrule what I'm saying. Because not only am I right, even logically, I'm right because the Supreme Court said so. Number two, now, my friend Honorable Ichungwa is saying that the office of the Prime Minister that I served in for a period of time was now the one in charge of procuring on behalf of the IBC. Is that even reasonable? Everybody knows IBC procures by itself. The office of the Prime Minister did not procure MOFO to come and supply the kits that he's talking about. So that also should be dismissed because we know how government procurement works. Number three, he talks about corruption and cartels of corruption and where they reside, and then quotes the worst person you should quote in the Republic of Kenya, the Deputy President, Honorable William Ruto, a man that has not just been accused of the worst corruption scandals in this country, but a man who has faced charges at the ICC, and a man whose name is the very definition of corruption. I wish to say that, and he can go to court tomorrow, so that I can be able to prove it. So he says that this man said those who are seeking free, fair, and credible election to be despots, dictators, and or terrorists.
Oh, threatening.
Now, that's what he's saying. Now, who is more of a despot than a man who points at a Supreme Court judge and a Chief Justice and says, you will see me after these repeat elections? Who is a despot who says, because we have artificial numbers in the House, we are going to revisit the Constitution and we are going to change it? Who is more of a despot than a man who went in this country from place to place campaigning against the ratification of this constitution. So I don't think Jubilee should be talking about despots. Having said that, on this report in the Standard about the so-called damning petition that link Justice Mwelu, the Deputy Chief Justice, and Justice Lenaola to NASA lawyers, is egregiously defamatory.
Yes.
Number one, the ballot is public knowledge that Justice Njoki Ndung'u is married to Chris Murungaru, who is a member of Jubilee. And Justice Njoki Ndung'u has been photographed with David Murathe, who is a crony of the president. Number two, it is public knowledge that Justice J.B. Ojwang's wife is a PS appointed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, this thing that they are now dangling about Justice Lenaola speaking with Ekuru Ekot and Senior Counsel Mwenesi within the precincts of the court. So essentially what these guys are saying, and unfortunately they don't practice law, is that if I go to court and meet a judge in the corridors of court, I'm not supposed to say hi, we are not supposed to talk. When these judges were lawyers before they were admitted to be judges, that is just ridiculous.
All right.
And then, no, I want to finish here, because this is very serious. This is a threat to the independence of the judiciary and to the Constitution itself. So now they have a busybody go to court with a petition, with purported records of telephone calls of judges. So what are you telling us? You are telling us not just that you are listening to Miguna's calls and you are recording him. You are actually recording Supreme Court judges. And you are not saying that you got a court order that authorized you to get these logs from Safaricom or whatever the telephone provider is. You are saying you are able to do it outside the law, then go to court and seek relief. There is something called there's a principle of law that my friend should remember. It's called the principle of equity. It says that to get equity, you must approach the court with clean hands. If you come with unclean hands, you cannot be given equity. This man now subverts the constitutional rights of lawyers, of judges, subverts the Constitution, violates the privacy of Kenyan citizens, if at all the logs are even true.
Thank you.
And I'm not saying they are. And then purports that they can extract justice from this very, very judiciary that they're attacking and saying are corrupt. I will want to advise the judiciary to do what the Supreme Court in Pakistan did. By their own motions, sui moto, they should discuss the behavior of His Excellency the President, his deputy, all these Jubilee busybodies that have been attacking them, and should arrive at a ruling that should send these people to the place they belong, which is the dustbin of the history of this country.
All right, thank you. So what do you want to pick from here as well? And I want to also go back, because you say that, yes, being married or being seen in the corridors of power with some of the people that are connected to the Supreme Court does not in any way have bearing also to actually the ruling that they